Hi there, and welcome to First Grade Nutrition Lesson 3. Today's lesson is on whole grains. Last week we focused on our fruit and vegetable group. Do you remember what fraction of your plate should be fruits and vegetables? Half of our plate should be fruits and vegetables. Remember, fruits and vegetables give us vitamins, minerals, and fiber that we need to grow and play. Before we start talking about whole grains, let's talk about grains in general. The grain group is located here on the My Plate. It's shaded in orange. Things that belong in the grain group are items like bread, cereal, crackers, rice, pasta, bagels, and muffins. Why are grains made with whole grains healthier for our bodies? Whole grains are nutrient packed with fiber, B vitamins, antioxidants, vitamin E, and protein. The refining process, which means removing the parts of the grain, not only strips the grain of their bran and germ, but also removes many nutrients, including fiber. Let's take a closer look. If you look at the picture in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, that's a picture of a whole grain before anything's done to it. So let's look at a whole grain versus a white grain or a refined grain. The whole grain contains all three parts. The bran, which is the outer layer that has the fiber and contains vitamins. It has the middle layer, which is the endosperm, which contains carbohydrates and protein. And finally, it's got the small nutrient-rich core called the germ that has our vitamin E and B vitamins and fats. If we look at our white grain, it only has the endosperm. The bran and the germ have been taken away, so it just contains the middle layer, which loses the fiber and the vitamins that are necessary. Let's look at the differences between whole grains and refined grains. How can you tell if you are eating a whole grain product? Let's take a look. Here's a picture of whole grain crackers, and here's a picture of regular crackers, which are made with refined grains. Here's a picture of brown rice, and here's a picture of white rice. Here's a picture of whole grain bread, and here's a picture of white bread. Here's a picture of whole grain pasta, and here's a picture of regular pasta. Sometimes you can tell the difference by the color. When you use the whole grain, the color tends to be more of a brownish color. Color isn't always the best way to tell, so how else can you tell if your grain is made from a whole grain? Well, you can look at the packaging. You'll notice that sometimes they just flat out tell you it's 100% whole grain. Here, there's 100% whole wheat. Here, 100% whole wheat. You can also look for the whole grain logo on the package. The whole grain logo looks like this. Let's take a look at this box of crackers. If you look closely down the bottom, you'll see the whole grain logo. Here's a picture of a cereal. If you look closely, you'll see the whole grain logo on the packaging. Finally, to see if your grain product is made with whole grains, you can look at the ingredients on the label to see if the first ingredient is a whole grain. At the bottom of this label are the ingredients. On the side of this label are the ingredients. Both are located right here. And you'll notice that the first ingredient is a whole grain. So both of these would be good choices if you're looking to choose a whole grain product. How to find whole grains. I showed you where to look for the ingredients, and here are 4 different examples of some other ingredient labels. And there are many types of whole grains: whole grain wheat, whole grain corn, whole grain oats. We want the word whole to be one of the very first ingredients. So you'll see that there are 3 checks and 1 X. Let's see why. First ingredient, whole grain oats. This next grain, first ingredient, whole grain wheat. The next one, the first ingredient, whole grain corn. This last one, the first ingredient is milled corn. That means it's not made with whole grains. Let's look at another example. Here are 2 ingredient lists. This first one is a whole grain food. The second one is not a whole grain food. By looking at the ingredients, you'll see the first word of this one is whole wheat flour. Whole is not the first word here. It's enriched flour bleached. So this first one is made with whole grains. and the second one is not made with whole grains. Let's take a look at this bread. Is this a whole grain? You'll notice it has whole wheat flour, so yes, it is. Let's play a quick game. I'm going to provide you with a food label. You are going to look at that food label and decide if it's a whole grain or not. If it's a whole grain, you will do jumping jacks. If it's not a whole grain, you will do cross craws. In this example, the ingredients whole grain wheat is first, which would mean that it is a whole grain. So you would do jumping jacks. Here's our first one. Using this ingredient label, is this grain product made with whole grains? If you think it is, I want you to stand up and do jumping jacks. If not, I want you to stand up and do cross craws. I'll give you the answer in a moment after you get a few exercises in. Let's see. Ingredients. The first ingredient is whole grain wheat. So this is a whole grain, and hopefully you are doing jumping jacks. Here's another label. Using this ingredient label, is this grain product made with whole grain? If it is, I want you to do jumping jacks, and if not, I want you to do cross craws. Let's take a look. The ingredients, first one, whole wheat flour. So the answer is yes, it's made with whole grains, and jumping jacks should be the exercise. Using this ingredient label, is this grain product made with whole grains? Take a look. If you think it is, I want you to do jumping jacks. If you think it is not, I'd like for you to do cross craws. Let's peek at the ingredients. The first ingredient says enriched flour. I do not see the word whole here. So cross craws was the correct exercise because this was not a whole grain. Let's look at this one. Using this ingredient label, is this grain product made with whole grains? If it is, I want you to do jumping jacks. If not, cross craws. Okay, I don't see the word whole in here. I see unbleached enriched flour. So that would mean it's not a whole grain. So you should have been doing cross craws. Here's our last one. Using this ingredient label, is this grain product made with whole grains? If it is, you're going to do jumping jacks. If it's not, you're going to do cross craws. Let's see, the first ingredient is whole grain wheat, so it is made with whole grains, and you should have been doing jumping jacks. Great job. Don't sit down. Now it's time to dance to our 5 food group song. Get ready.
Here's a little song about the 5 food groups: fruits, veggies, protein foods, grains, and dairy.
The 5 food groups are what we need. Fruits, veggies, protein foods, grains, dairy. The 5 food groups are as cool as can be. So eat 5 food groups and sing with me. Give a hoot if you like fruit. Stomp your feet and eat veggies. Sing my tune for protein foods. Fly like a plane with some grains.
And now add dairy, and you got all 5. So come on, everybody, and reach for the sky.
The 5 food groups are what we need. Fruits, veggies, protein foods, grains, dairy. The 5 food groups are as cool as can be. So eat 5 food groups and sing with me.
An apple is a fruit. Broccoli is a vegetable. Chicken is a protein food. Bread is a grain. And yogurt is dairy.
That makes 5. Give a hoot if you like fruit. Stomp your feet and eat veggies. Sing my tune for protein foods. Fly like a plane with some grains.
And now add dairy, you got all five. So come on everybody and reach for the sky.
The 5 food groups are what we need. Fruits, veggies, protein foods, grains, dairy. The 5 food groups are as cool as can be.
So thank you everybody for singing with me.
Wow, thank you for participating in this lesson on whole grains. Now, take a look at the grains in your pantry or cabinet. Can you find any that are made with whole grain? Have a wonderful day.